Hi, I'm Jack Parker, and in this series of videos, I'm going to be laying out a case for why to take AGI safety very, very seriously. And in particular, I'm going to be exploring Richard No's article, AGI Safety from First Principles. So my audience for this video is really people who are just getting started in AGI safety, or who have heard of AGI safety and are interested in learning more about it, learning more about the core argument for, what is this thing called AGI safety? Why should we take it seriously? Why are people freaking out about robots killing everyone, right? So it's really for beginners, people new to the field. I do think this will be really useful for anyone who is already pretty well spun up in the field of AGI safety. Think of this as a nice on-ramp into reading the actual article. I really recommend that everyone who watches this series go read the actual article. Richard's going to get more into the nitty-gritty, and you're going to get a lot of value out of reading the article. But I think a lot of people will get a lot of value out of watching this video series first and then going to the article. This video series is going to give you a high-level, broad brushstrokes overview of what's going on, and then maybe you can fill in some more of the details by going and reading the article. The goals for the video series. I really want to give a clear, concise, and thorough and accessible argument for why existential threat due to AGI should be taken very, very seriously. And I think going over Richard's article is a great way to do this, is a great way to introduce the core argument for taking AGI safety seriously. I think Richard does a great job of clearly stating the argument in a very structured way, in a way that's easy to follow and that's convincing. Now, what is the argument that we're going to be going into here? So Richard No defends a type of argument called the second species argument, and it goes something like this. If things continue down their current trajectory, there's a significant chance that the following four things will happen in sequence. First, we will eventually build superintelligent AI that's much more intelligent than humans. Second, those AIs will be the kinds of AI that are agentic and that pursue large-scale goals. Okay, they're going to have goals of their own. Third, those goals are going to be at cross purposes with our own. And fourth, those AIs will be able to take control of the future from humanity, essentially relegating us to a second species, a second most powerful species. So in future videos, we're going to be going through each of these four arguments in turn, because each of these need defending. In this video, we'll be talking about part one of No's second species argument, namely the idea that we'll eventually build superintelligent AI that's way more intelligent than humans are. Now, a roadmap for this video, I want to give a brief overview of the difference between narrow and general AI. And then I'll chat about the question, will we ever build artificial general intelligence? And then the next part is, assuming that we do, will that AGI, artificial general intelligence, ever become smarter than us? Okay, or will it stay at human level intelligence? And then finally, if so, when will this happen? Right? What's the timeline? All right, narrow intelligence versus general intelligence. All right, let's talk about the task-based approach to intelligence. Okay, so this is Lee Sedol. He was a South Korean Go player, one of the best in the world. I think he was ranked 2. At the time that he lost to AlphaGo, you can see it right here, which is an AI model that was trained to play Go. And it was trained to do this one specific task, right? They took the task-based approach to intelligence, right? It was trained to play Go really, really well. And it got to the point where it could beat the best Go player in the world. Okay, so that's one approach to intelligence. Have it be really, really good at one specific task, train it on that task, and then deploy it on that same task. Now, the generalization-based approach to intelligence, when your training task is not going to be the same as your deployment task, right? Your training task is going to allow you to develop when I say you, it's going to allow the AI to develop general capabilities that can then be applied to a wide range of deployment tasks. An example of the generalization-based approach to intelligence is OpenAI's GPT-3. Okay, so it was trained on one specific language task, and then it was able to generalize what it learned on that task to many other language tasks. Okay, OpenAI's GPT-3 is not an AGI. It's not an artificial general intelligence. It's not general enough to warrant the name of an AGI, but it gives you a sense of the generalization-based approach to intelligence. Okay, will we ever build AGI? Now, one thing that the first question you might ask yourself is, can we scale up the task-based approach all the way to general intelligence? All right, Eric Drexler wrote this massive report called Reframing and Superintelligence, Comprehensive AI Services as General Intelligence. And the idea of comprehensive AI services is that instead of building one agent that's generally intelligent, okay, Drexler believes that we should expect to build a bunch of narrow AIs, a bunch of task-based AIs that link up and form a network, form a system that will effectively be as intelligent as a general intelligence. All right. Now, Richard disagrees with this. Richard disagrees with this. You can see an article here called Comments on Comprehensive AI Services by Richard. And he says, if I had to sum up my objections to Eric's framework in one sentence, it would be the more powerful each service is, the harder it is to ensure it's individually safe. Okay. The less powerful each service is, the harder it is to combine them in a way that's competitive with unified agents. Okay. So I would encourage you to go read this full report if you want more of a deep dive into comprehensive AI services. Richard No believes there's a lot of economic incentives to build AGI. Okay. Narrow AI, in other words, when I say narrow AI, I'm talking about the task-based approach to intelligence. Narrow AI may work for automating things like math, medicine, and law, right? It may work for things like this, right? Where you can gather enough data and the task is narrow enough that we could use the task-based approach to scale way up and have an AI that's very high performance on things like this. Okay. But what about something really complicated like a CEO? Okay. A CEO has to juggle a ton of variables, and it seems really unlikely that we'll ever be able to use the task-based approach, come up with enough training data, right? Get enough training data to train a narrow AI as a CEO and then deploy it as a CEO. More likely, it seems like for really economically useful tasks like this, it seems much more likely that we will create artificial general intelligence, where we're giving it tasks we're giving it a training task, and then it's able to generalize from that training task all the skills it needs in order to be a CEO. Evolution in the ancestral environment selected for general intelligence, right? And there's no reason in principle to expect that we can't simulate versions of both evolution and the ancestral environment to build AGI. All right. Okay, so will this AI, this AGI, artificial general intelligence, become smarter than us? Well, there are a lot of constraints on the human brain that AGI could get past. The first is speed, right? Just think about neurons versus transistors. Transistors process information at about 4 million times the speed of a neuron. Okay, so even if the AGI were no smarter than humans, right, it could do as much thinking in a very, very short period of time, minutes, seconds, hours, as a human could do in years and years and years and years. Okay. The size, right? Insofar as size is the size of the brain is important for intelligence, we could make AIs, in particular neural networks, as a particular type of AI that are way bigger in size than the human brain. Evolution is a good designer, right, for our intelligence, but it certainly hasn't optimized for verbal and mathematical proficiency, right? And we could design a better designer for AGIs that would be able to select for verbal and mathematical proficiency better than evolution has. Now, Richard identifies 6 forces that he believes are going to get us from human level AGI to super intelligent AGI. Okay, these 3 are kind of the classical drivers of progress in AI. The first is compute, right? How fast can these things carry out computations? How fast can our AI carry out computations, right? More compute is going to help us train better and better, stronger and stronger models, okay? Algorithms, as we get better and better at identifying clever algorithms, right? That will get us closer to AGI. And better training data, more training data, better training regimes for our AI will get us closer to AGI. Now, once we have an AGI, right? Once we have an AGI, it can replicate itself. AGI is software, right? We can take this program, we can copy it, and we can put it in a bunch of computers. Okay, right. So these things can link up with one another and help one another out. Right, that's the idea. We're able to easily replicate, build a bunch of copies of the AGI, and that's better than just having one of them, and will help this AGI scale up to super intelligent level. Cultural learning. AGIs are very likely to be better than humans are at things like theory of mind, at communication. They'll be better able to transmit knowledge from one AGI to another AGI. So they'll be able to learn from one another much more easily, meaning that they will scale up to super intelligent levels as a collective. Now, recursive improvement is really interesting as well. Eventually, we'll hit a point where AGIs are better at artificial intelligence research than humans are, and they will be the drivers for AI research. And as the AGIs build a better AGI, that will build an even better AGI, and on and on and on and on. Now, what should we expect to be the takeoff speed from human level AGI to super intelligent AGI? Okay, how long, once we have AGI, how long will it take for the AGI to become super intelligent? This is a much debated question. And Richard, in this document, AGI Safety from First Principles, he kind of parries this question, right? Because it's not, he doesn't see it as that important to his main argument. If you're interested in this takeoff speed question, I would encourage you to check out this conversation between Eliezer Yudkowsky and Paul Christiano. They talk about takeoff speeds. What's a plausible timeline for super intelligent AGI? Okay, much like this question of takeoff speeds, Richard's going to parry this question in AGI Safety from First Principles because he doesn't see it as central to his argument. And it's also a very hotly debated question. Okay. Holden Karnofsky, though, I would encourage you to go read this summary of the biological anchors method for forecasting AI from Holden Karnofsky. And he talks about transformative AI. Now, transformative AI, Holden wants to sidestep some of these questions about artificial general intelligence versus narrow intelligence. And he wants to talk about just AI that's transformative. In particular, he's interested in AI that can automate scientific research. Okay. And so once we have AI that's doing scientific research, Holden believes that is going to be transformative, right? And on the scale of the Industrial Revolution or the Agricultural Revolution. Okay. So maybe this transformative AI is narrow, maybe it's general, right? But he's asking, at what point should we expect transformative AI? What's the timeline for transformative AI? And he uses this thing called the biological anchors method, okay? Which asks, based on the usual patterns and how much training costs, how much would it cost, right? How much would it cost to train an AI model as big as a human brain to perform the hardest tasks humans can do? And when will this be cheap enough that we can expect someone to do it? Okay, so that's kind of the proxy for coming up with a timeline for when we should achieve transformative AI. Now, the biological anchors model uses a lot of different metrics, and then it gets averaged together into this black line here. And here's the summary. BioAnchors estimates above a 10% chance of transformative AI by 2036, 50% chance by 2055, and around an 80% chance by the end of the century. Now, in the next video, we'll be talking about, we'll be defending this argument that super intelligent AI that we build will be agentic and pursue large-scale goals. That's a very important piece of this argument. Okay, so we'll talk about that in the next video. And I checked the description below for links to all the articles that I've mentioned in this video. I'll see you next time.